A single offhand joke in a boardroom followed by a smirk was all it took to light the fuse. By the time the smoke cleared, $22 million had vanished, the VP's career was in ashes, and I was quietly watching from the other side of the table. You think you've seen corporate takedowns before? This one was personal. He thought dismissing 6 weeks of my team's work as PowerPoint fluff would establish his dominance. Instead, it signed his professional death warrant. My name is Claire Morton, and I've spent 12 years building my reputation as a data strategy specialist at Vanguard Metrics Group. At 38, I'd earned my seat at the executive table through precision, foresight, and an ability to translate market chaos into actionable intelligence. That Tuesday morning in March, I walked into conference room A carrying the quarterly market analysis my team had spent 6 weeks perfecting. 23 slides of meticulously sourced data, predictive models, and risk assessments for our biggest client, Redstone Dynamics, a $30 million account that kept our Denver office thriving. Travis Cole had been VP of Strategic Development for exactly 17 days, Harvard MBA, crisp pocket squares, and a smile that never quite reached his eyes. He'd swept in from a competitor with promises to revolutionize our approach and inject fresh thinking into stale processes. The CEO had practically rolled out a red carpet. I was 3 slides into presenting our findings when Travis interrupted, not with a question. That would have been professional. No, he laughed. A short, dismissive bark that cut through my explanation of emerging market vulnerabilities. Claire, he said, leaning back in his leather chair, fingers steepled like he was about to bestow wisdom upon us mortals. This is exactly the kind of overthinking that's been holding us back. All these charts, these projections, it's just PowerPoint fluff, isn't it? The room went silent, 14 people around that mahogany table, and not one of them breathed. My team, Maya Lopez, our modeling expert, and Hannah Green, our behavioral analyst, sat frozen, their weeks of 18-hour days dismissed with a casual wave of Travis's manicured hand. PowerPoint fluff, I repeated, keeping my voice steady though my pulse hammered. This fluff identified 3 critical risk factors that could impact Redstone's supply chain by Q3. Risk factors, he actually used air quotes. See, this is old school thinking. Clients don't want to hear about what might go wrong. They want innovation, transformation, acceleration. Each buzzword dropped like a stone into still water. They want to know we're not just analyzing the game, we're changing it. Brad, our CFO, shifted uncomfortably. Sarah from marketing studied her coffee cup like it contained the secrets of the universe. Nobody defended the work. Nobody challenged him. Travis stood, buttoning his jacket with practiced precision. Tell you what, I'll handle the Redstone pitch personally next week. Give them something with actual vision instead of... He gestured vaguely at my presentation. This exercise in paranoia. We need to excite them, not put them to sleep with spreadsheets. The pitch is my team's responsibility, I said. We've been managing the Redstone relationship for 4 years. Exactly my point. That smile again, sharp as winter. 4 years of the same approach. Time for some fresh blood. Don't you think? Besides, he looked directly at me, then at my team. I'm sure you have plenty of other tasks to keep you busy. Maybe something more suited to your particular skill set. Data entry. Perhaps. Maya's knuckles went white around her pen. Hannah's jaw clenched so hard I could hear her teeth grinding. But I smiled. Calm, professional, giving nothing away. Of course, I said, closing my laptop with a soft click. I'm sure Redstone will be fascinated by your vision. Travis nodded, already dismissing us from his thoughts as he turned to Brad. Set up a prep meeting for Thursday. Just the senior team. We need to streamline this operation. The subtext was clear. My team and I weren't senior enough anymore. As we filed out, Travis called after me. Oh, Claire. Make sure all your research materials are transferred to my drive by end of day. Every file, every source. I want to make sure I have all the, what did you call it? Meticulously sourced data. The mockery in his tone was acid bright. Every single file, I assured him, my smile never wavering. Walking back to our department, Maya finally exploded. 6 weeks, 6 fucking weeks of work. And he just... Maya, I touched her arm gently. My office. Once the door closed behind Hannah and Maya, I walked to my desk, pulled out an old leather notebook, a gift from someone who'd taught me everything about surviving corporate warfare, and found the page I needed. There, in Evelyn Hart's precise handwriting, never interrupt an enemy when they're making a mistake, but always, always, make sure they have enough rope. I looked at my team, these brilliant women who'd just been humiliated for the crime of being thorough. Transfer everything to his drive, I said quietly. Every file, every draft, every version. I paused, meeting their eyes, including the ones with all my comments about the missing data points and unverified assumptions he'll need to address. Hannah's eyes widened with understanding. Maya's lips curved into the first smile I'd seen since the meeting. All of them, Maya asked. Every single. The next 3 days were a masterclass in corporate theater. Travis had taken to holding court by the coffee machine each morning, regaling anyone within earshot about his plans to disrupt the consulting paradigm. Wednesday morning, I arrived early enough to catch his performance. The problem with this place, he said, stirring his third sugar into his latte, is that we've got too many people married to yesterday's playbook. Excel sheets and risk assessments. That's fear-based thinking. Clients want partners who dream bigger. Janet from HR nodded politely. Marcus from IT looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. I poured my black coffee in silence, noting how Travis's eyes tracked my movement, waiting for a reaction. Morning, Claire, he said, voice dripping false warmth. How's the data entry going? Productive, I replied, taking a sip. Very illuminating, actually. He laughed, that same dismissive bark from the meeting. I'm sure counting numbers is thrilling for some people, though between us, he leaned in conspiratorially, loud enough for everyone to hear. Redstone's going to be blown away when they see what real innovation looks like, not to criticize your methods, but sometimes experience can be a liability. Old dogs, new tricks, you understand. Perfectly, I said, meeting his gaze steadily. In fact, I've been reviewing my notes from Evelyn Hart. You know Evelyn. Don't you, Redstone's CTO? Something flickered in his expression. We haven't been formally introduced. Oh, you'll love her. She has very specific ideas about what constitutes innovation versus... I paused, savoring the moment. Empty calories. Travis's smile tightened. Well, she'll see next week that we're serving a full meal. I walked back to my office, pulled out that leather notebook again, and found Evelyn's direct number. She answered on the second ring. Claire Morton, her voice warm with genuine affection. It's been too long. How's the Redstone analysis coming? That's actually why I'm calling. I kept my tone neutral, professional. There's been a change in the presentation team. Travis Cole will be leading the pitch next week. Silence. Then, the new VP, the one from Nexus Consulting. That's him. I see. Another pause. I could practically hear her thinking. And your analysis? Completed, comprehensive, handed over in full. I let that sink in. Every file, every notation, he has complete access to all our materials, including your recommendations about the Shanghai supplier risks. Especially those. Interesting. Her tone had shifted, sharpened. You know, I've been meaning to catch up. Are you free for coffee Thursday? Perhaps that little place on 16th Street? Thursday, the day Travis had his senior team prep meeting, the day I wouldn't be invited to participate. Thursday's perfect, I said. I have a surprisingly open calendar. Excellent. Oh, and Claire, bring that notebook I gave you. I'm curious to see if you've been keeping up with your lessons. After I hung up, I spent the rest of the morning doing exactly what Travis expected. Organizing files, updating spreadsheets, looking every inch the defeated middle manager he'd reduced me to. I even ate lunch at my desk, alone, letting him see me through the glass partition that separated my office from the hallway. Hannah stopped by around 2, playing her part perfectly. Travis asked if you could add the 2019 comparison data to his deck, she said, loud enough for passing ears. He wants to show year-over-year growth. Of course, I replied, pulling up the files. Though he might want to note that 2019 was an outlier year due to the Marchiston acquisition, the numbers look impressive without context, but anyone familiar with our history would know they're not representative. Should I tell him that? Oh, I'm sure he's already aware. He wouldn't use misleading data to impress a client. Hannah's expression remained perfectly neutral. I'm sure you're right. That afternoon, I watched Travis stride past my office carrying printed slides, practicing his pitch to himself. He'd replaced every instance of risk assessment with opportunity catalyst and turned our supply chain warnings into expansion potential. It was like watching someone paint over rust and call it renovation. Maya texted me from her desk. He just asked me to make the fonts bigger and add more blue. Says it's more dynamic. I texted back, do exactly what he asks. Then I opened my personal email and composed a message to Evelyn. Just one line. You're going to want to ask about the Shanghai suppliers. He won't bring them up. Her response came within minutes. Looking forward to coffee. I have a feeling Thursday's going to be very educational. That evening, as the office emptied, Travis stopped by my door. Claire, quick question. These footnotes in your research about vendor reliability scores, necessary? I looked up from my screen, expression helpful and innocent. Only if someone asks about data verification, but you're right. They probably make the slides too busy. Exactly what I thought. He tapped the door frame twice, a gesture of dismissal. Sometimes less is more. Absolutely, I agreed. Sometimes less is everything. He walked away, and I returned to my screen where I'd been reviewing 4 years of successful Redstone presentations. Every single one had included those reliability scores. Evelyn had specifically requested them after a vendor collapse in 2021 that had cost them $8 million. But Travis didn't need to know that. After all, I was just an old dog, and he was about to learn some new tricks of his own. Monday arrived wrapped in Denver's typical spring uncertainty, sunshine fighting through clouds that promised afternoon rain. Travis had chosen the 10 o'clock slot for the Redstone pitch, what he called peak performance hours, in his Friday afternoon pep talk to the senior team. I wasn't invited to that meeting, of course, but Brad's assistant had a habit of leaving his office door cracked. I dressed carefully that morning, my second-best suit, the navy one that said, competent but not competing. Travis needed to believe I'd accepted my diminished role. I arrived early, made coffee, and sat at my desk reviewing routine reports like any other Monday. When Travis swept past at 9:15, garment bag over his shoulder, he barely glanced my way. By 9:45, the chosen team had assembled in the lobby. Travis in his power suit, charcoal gray, perfectly tailored, a red tie that screamed confidence. Brad looked uncomfortable in his lucky blue jacket. Sarah from marketing clutched her iPad like a lifeline. 2 junior associates Travis had handpicked for their fresh perspective stood nervously adjusting their portfolios. Claire, Travis called out, that practiced smile in place. We're heading out. Hold down the fort. Will you maybe have some champagne ready for when we get back? He winked at his assembled team. Should only take an hour to close this deal. Break a leg, I said mildly, returning to my screen. At 10:20, my phone buzzed. A text from Maya, who'd strategically scheduled a dentist appointment that morning. In the Redstone lobby now. They just went up. At 10:35, another text, saw Brad in the bathroom. He looked pale. At 10:50, Travis just walked past me in the hall, alone, walking very fast. And then, at 11:07, the one I'd been waiting for. From Evelyn. That was educational. Free for lunch tomorrow. The team returned at 11:30. No champagne was requested. Travis went straight to his office and closed the door. Brad disappeared into the executive conference room with his phone pressed to his ear. Sarah sat at her desk, staring at nothing. The 2 junior associates looked like they'd witnessed a car crash. Hannah materialized at my door within minutes. What happened? She asked, loud enough to sound concerned but not gossipy. One of the juniors, Kevin, I think, had followed her. It was brutal, he whispered, glancing toward Travis's closed door. He kept saying accelerate and transform, but the CTO, Hart, she kept asking for specifics, real numbers, risk assessments. What did Travis say? I asked, voice carefully neutral. He said risks were just opportunities in disguise. She asked which specific opportunities he meant. He talked about blue ocean strategies and paradigm shifts. She asked about the Shanghai suppliers. I kept my expression steady. And he didn't know what she was talking about. Said supplier details were granular operational concerns that could be addressed post-contract. Kevin swallowed hard. She asked if he'd read the vendor reliability scores. He said they weren't relevant to strategic vision. Hannah and I exchanged the briefest glance. Kevin continued. Then she pulled out this report. Pages and pages with highlighted sections. Said it was from 2021 after they lost $8 million in a vendor collapse. Asked if our strategic vision included preventing another similar loss. Travis said that was backward-looking thinking. She said, and I quote, "I prefer to call it learning from experience." How did it end? Hannah asked. She thanked us for coming, said they'd be in touch, but when we were leaving, I heard her tell her assistant to cancel the afternoon follow-up session. By noon, the office grapevine was in full bloom. By 2, everyone knew something had gone wrong. By 3, Travis emerged from his office for the first time since returning. His face a careful mask of confidence that didn't quite hide the strain around his eyes. He stopped by my office. "Claire, I need the complete Redstone file history, everything from the past 4 years." "Of course," I said, pulling up the folders. "Looking for anything specific?" "Just comprehensive background." He paused, then added with forced casualness, "Did you ever document discussions about their vendor concerns?" "Extensively," I replied, highlighting a folder labeled Supplier Risk Mitigation 2021 to 2024. Evelyn was particularly interested in that after the Shanghai incident. There are 16 reports in there, plus correspondence about their new verification requirements. His jaw tightened. "And these were in the files you transferred?" "Every single one. Subfolder 7, labeled Critical Risk Factors. You said you wanted everything." He stared at me for a long moment. I maintained eye contact, expression helpful and innocent. "Right," he finally said. "Good." He took the files and returned to his office. Through the glass, I watched him scroll through document after document, his expression growing darker with each page. The Shanghai supplier situation wasn't just mentioned. It was the cornerstone of Redstone's entire risk management overhaul. Any competent analysis would have led with it. Any prepared presenter would have known it by heart. At 4:47, an email appeared in my inbox from Evelyn Hart, CCing Travis Cole, Brad Williams, and the entire Vanguard senior leadership team. Following this morning's presentation, Redstone Dynamics requires time to reassess our consulting needs. We were disappointed by the lack of substantive engagement with our core operational concerns, particularly given Vanguard's historical understanding of our risk priorities. We will be reviewing alternative partnerships. Additionally, I was surprised to learn that Claire Morton, who has successfully managed our account for 4 years, was not involved in preparing or presenting this pitch. This represents a concerning departure from the reliable, data-driven approach we've come to expect from Vanguard. We'll be in touch regarding next steps. The email might as well have been written in fire. $22 million, hanging by a thread, and Evelyn had just handed that thread to me. My phone buzzed, a private text from Evelyn. "Tomorrow, noon, usual place. We have a lot to discuss." I looked across the hall at Travis's office. He was still at his desk, phone pressed to his ear, gesticulating wildly. Through the glass, I could read his lips. "She's overreacting. Temporary setback. Salvageable." Salvageable. I closed my laptop and prepared to leave for the day, thinking about that word. Some things could be salvaged. Careers. Though, once you'd publicly demonstrated incompetence on a $22 million scale, that was harder to fix, especially when someone was about to make it impossible. The restaurant Evelyn had chosen sat 17 floors above Denver's financial district, the kind of place where deals were made over Wagyu beef and $100 bottles of wine. I arrived 5 minutes early, but she was already there, seated at a corner table with a view of the mountains. The leather notebook she'd given me 5 years ago lay on the table beside her water glass. "Claire," she stood, embracing me warmly. "You look well. Remarkably relaxed for someone whose department just imploded." "It wasn't my implosion," I said, taking my seat. "No," she agreed, signaling the waiter. "It certainly wasn't. Bourbon." "Please." We ordered. She knew I'd get the salmon. I knew she'd get the ribeye, and waited until our drinks arrived before conducting any real business. Evelyn had taught me that never discuss anything substantial while staff are hovering. That was quite a performance yesterday, she said finally, swirling her whiskey. Your new VP is certainly confident. Travis believes in transformation through innovation, I said neutrally. She laughed, sharp and bright. He used the word transform 17 times. I counted, also accelerate 12 times, and paradigm 9. You know what word he never used? Data. He prefers vision to analysis. She pulled out her phone, showed me a photo she'd taken of one of Travis's slides. This vision, where he projected 40% growth but couldn't explain the baseline, or this one, where he suggested leveraging synergies with suppliers he didn't know had gone bankrupt. The Shanghai suppliers. The Shanghai suppliers. She leaned back, studying me. You warned him, didn't you? I provided all the files, every report, every risk assessment, every vendor analysis from the past 4 years. Subfolder 7 was specifically labeled critical risk factors, which he didn't read. I couldn't say. I wasn't invited to the prep meetings. Evelyn's smile was razor sharp. No, you weren't. In fact, according to Kevin, sweet boy, terrible poker face, Travis specifically said your input wasn't needed because the pitch required fresh thinking, unconstrained by historical limitations. Our food arrived. We ate in companionable silence for a few minutes before she spoke again. $22 million. Claire, that's what our contract with Vanguard is worth annually. Travis just put that at risk to show off buzzwords and pretty fonts. Vanguard's leadership will address it, I said carefully. Will they? Brad called me this morning. 3 times. Wants to clarify the miscommunication and promises Travis is fully aligned with Redstone's priorities. I haven't returned his calls. She cut into her steak with surgical precision. I'm tired of Vanguard. Claire, tired of paying premium prices for consultants who think they're smarter than us. Travis is just the latest symptom. Evelyn. I need someone who understands that data isn't old-fashioned. Someone who knows that risk assessment isn't fear, it's intelligence. Someone who's spent 4 years learning exactly how Redstone operates. She looked at me directly. I need you. There it was. The offer I'd sensed coming since her first text. She pulled out a folder, slid it across the table. Director of Strategic Intelligence, reporting directly to me. Base salary 3 times what Vanguard pays you, plus equity, plus performance bonuses tied to risk mitigation. Every disaster you prevent, you get paid. I opened the folder, scanned the terms. It was generous, more than generous. It was transformative. You'll build your own team, she continued. I assume you have people in mind. Maya Lopez, Hannah Green, they're the best analysts Vanguard has. Poach them. I'll approve whatever packages you need to make it happen. She paused, sipped her bourbon. Here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow, I'm calling Brad to formally terminate Vanguard's contract. $22 million. Gone. The termination clause requires 30 days' notice. But given the breach of service standards, presenting uninformed strategy as expert consultation, we can invoke immediate cessation. That will destroy Travis. That will destroy Travis, she agreed. Brad, too. Probably. Losing your biggest client 2 weeks after hiring a new VP, the board will want blood. I thought about Travis's smirk, his dismissive laugh, the way he'd reduce 6 weeks of work to PowerPoint fluff. When do you need an answer? Now would be nice, but I'm patient. Take a week. Get your affairs in order. Talk to your team. She smiled. Though something tells me Maya and Hannah are already halfway out the door. She wasn't wrong. Both had updated their LinkedIn profiles within hours of that disastrous meeting. There's one condition, I said. Her eyebrows rose. Negotiating already. The Vanguard team, the ones who actually did the work, they shouldn't suffer for Travis's arrogance. If any of them need references, recommendations. Done. I'll make it clear the failure was leadership, not execution. She raised her glass. You learned well, Claire. Loyalty to good people is never weakness. We clinked glasses. Below us, Denver sprawled in afternoon sunshine. The mountains beyond shrouded in approaching clouds. One more thing, Evelyn said as we prepared to leave. That notebook I gave you, the quote on page 7, I knew it by heart. Never interrupt an enemy when they're making a mistake. Page 8, she said, but always be ready with the killing blow. I smiled. Tuesday morning, I make the call. Wednesday, Travis discovers what $22 million sounds like when it disappears. Thursday, you submit your resignation. Friday, you start at Redstone. She stood, smoothing her skirt. Unless you have a better timeline. No, I said, standing as well. That's perfect. We walked to the elevator together. As the doors closed, she said, You know what the real irony is? If Travis had just included you in the pitch, we'd be renewing for another year. His ego cost Vanguard everything. Old dogs, I said quietly. New tricks. Indeed, the elevator descended smoothly, carrying us back to street level, back to the world where Travis Cole still believed he could salvage his mistake. He had 24 hours left in that world. I intended to enjoy every minute of them. Tuesday evening, I invited Maya and Hannah to my apartment. They arrived together, carrying wine and wearing expressions of barely contained curiosity. I'd never socialized with them outside of office happy hours. And my text, need to discuss something important, not at the office, had clearly set their imaginations spinning. Is this about yesterday? Maya asked, before she'd even removed her coat. Because Travis spent the entire day locked in crisis meetings, Brad looked like he was going to vomit. Pour the wine first, I said, gesturing to the living room where I'd laid out cheese and crackers. We're going to need it. Hannah uncorked the bottle with practiced efficiency. You know something. You've got that look. The same one you had when you caught Williams Resources inflating their projections. I waited until we all had glasses, then pulled out the Redstone folder. I had lunch with Evelyn Hart today. Maya nearly dropped her wine. The Redstone CTO, the one who just watched Travis self-immolate. The very same. I opened the folder, spread the documents on my coffee table. She's offered me Director of Strategic Intelligence at Redstone, triple my current salary. Silence. Hannah picked up the offer letter, scanned it with the analytical eye that made her invaluable. This is real. Very real. She's terminating Vanguard's contract tomorrow morning. 22 million, Maya whispered. Gone. Gone, I confirmed. But here's the more interesting part. I need to build a team, my team, Evelyn's pre-approved competitive packages for 2 senior analysts. I looked at them both. You're the best Vanguard has. Come with me. Hannah set down the letter carefully. You're poaching us. I'm saving you. When Redstone pulls out, Vanguard's going to hemorrhage clients. The board will demand restructuring. Travis might be the first head to roll, but he won't be the last. Middle management always pays for executive failures. Maya was already doing the math. If we lose Redstone, we lose credibility. Monterey Holdings will be next. They only signed because Redstone vouched for us, then Pinnacle Group. She trailed off, the dominoes falling in her mind. Whereas at Redstone, I continued, you'd be building something new, real strategic intelligence, not PowerPoint fluff. Evelyn values data, respects analysis, and pays for performance. When, Hannah asked, I submit my resignation Thursday, start Monday. If you're interested, you'd follow the same timeline. They exchanged glances. 15 years of combined Vanguard experience between them, watching it crumble because one man couldn't be bothered to read a risk assessment. What about the others? Maya asked. The junior analysts, the research team. Evelyn promised references for anyone who needs them. She'll make it clear the failure was leadership, not execution, but I can only take 2 people initially. Once we're established, if headcount opens up, I let the possibility hang. Hannah poured more wine. Thursday, that gives us 2 days to watch Travis scramble.